Happy Wednesday, television family. We made it, barely, but we're here. It's the 17th day of December 2025. I am Dan Kuntz, your host. It's raining. It's 37 degrees. We just may be past the worst spot. We're still going to get some rain, still going to get some wind, but this cold front is really ripping through here. We're actually going to see some sunshine later on in the day. Winds gradually decreasing. There were some significant power outages both in Wenatchee and East Wenatchee earlier in the morning. That has been rectified. Kudos to the PUD on that. Chelan County PUD, man, have they been going through a rough stretch. Kudos to the linemen. They're well paid, but man, they do work I wouldn't want to do. And we're not out of the woods yet. We still have the high wind warning until 4 o'clock this afternoon. Flood advisory continues until 10 o'clock tonight. It's 37 now. 3 hours ago at exactly 4 o'clock this morning, it was 48 degrees. It's a cold front, so we've dropped 11 degrees in 3 hours. And at that same time, at 4 o'clock this morning, we had one gust at Payne-Bowen Memorial Airport, that's where the weather station is, at 60 miles an hour. Right now, it's sustained winds at about 23 miles an hour, but it's already beginning to die down a little bit. This cold front is moving fast. It's also going to finally drop our temperatures down close to where they should be. Still warm, but close to where they should be. Needless to say, we have lots of weather to talk about because there's lots of weather. News, yeah, kind of a little nerve-wracking around the broadcast Metroplex yesterday. Fire department came and threw everybody out of the building because of a gas leak right down the block from us. We'll have that. Sports, not a good night for the Avalanche, not a good night for the Wild. Our local hockey teams have been really struggling this year, plus the prep basketball scoreboard and the schedule. We'll have all of that. If you missed the interview I did with Doug Jones, Executive Director of Rivercom, we'll have that for you in the back half of the program. It's very informational. They need your help because they help us. Doug will be joining me in the back half of the program. Tour time at just about 3 o'clock. Most of the power is back. There's still a couple of little bitty power outages, we're told, on the Douglas County side of the river. Outside of that, the power is back. There were over 6,000 customers in the Wenatchee area that had no power for not long, half an hour, 45 minutes, but again, they got it right back again. It was crazy. I got up at 3. It was a little windy and no rain, and then boom, the wind came basically out of nowhere. Fantastic shot of Hay Canyon looking out over Kashmir. The Wenatchee Valley is off into the distance. It's shaking a little bit. All of the camera towers are shaking. They're designed to do that. They're supposed to move when it gets really windy, and it's still really windy, but as I mentioned before, I think we're past the worst of it right now. From our Omi Garden camera, looking at Rocky Reach Dam. Hello, Rocky Reach Dam, cranking out that juice. Most of that juice is going elsewhere, of course, but we suck up what we need. And I think the Billy Goat camera might be looking really cool today. There you go. Hello, up north. That is pointed directly to the southeast, which is where the sun is coming up. These, of course, the very shortest days of the year, so that's the Columbia River that you see down there. Normally we have that camera, the camera high atop Billy Goat, 7,200 feet above sea level. We'd normally have that pointed off to the left, more towards the Bridgeport, Brewster, Pateros area, but that's pretty good looking stuff right there. As I already mentioned, we've already hit our afternoon high. Normally, we call it the afternoon high. It's just the high temperature, regardless of when it happens in the course of the day. That's already happened at 4 o'clock this morning with that 48-degree mark. Here you go, your wind gust ranges. And again, it looks like, since we're on the front end of this cold front, that we're done with the really strong winds. We're still going to get a couple of row gusts here and there, but the farther east you go from this point forward is where you're going to find more wind. Spokane's going to get some serious wind. Ephrata, Moses Lake, it already is right now. Ephrata has stronger winds than we have. Moses Lake right now has just had a gust at 44 miles an hour. So it's moving very strongly from the west to the east. And so for right now, it looks like the worst may be over. Right now, it's still raining, and it's still going to rain for another hour or so. We've talked about this. The ground is completely saturated. There's no place for the water to go. The rivers and creeks and streams are going to get high again with the rain. So there is still the possibility of a couple of big old trees coming down over power lines and internet lines and that kind of stuff. So we're not out of the woods yet, but right now things are beginning to improve here in the Wenatchee Valley. I think the worst may be over. Keep your fingers crossed. And one more quick thing before we do the weather forecast, courtesy of our friends of Colonial Vista Senior Living in Wenatchee. It's where comfort, care, and community come together. You know about this already. Governor Ferguson press conference yesterday morning made it official. Highway 2 between Skycomish and Leavenworth is going to be closed for months, they tell us. It's not just the washout in the Tumwater Canyon. Of course, there's a big section of highway there that's not there anymore, but also on the west side of the river. They got sections of highway that washed out, mudslides, all that stuff. It's going to be a long time before you'll be able to drive all the way over Stevens Pass. Not good news for a lot of merchants, and certainly not good news for the Stevens Pass Ski Resort, because they're getting dumped on right now, and you can't get there. Chance of rain is going to go back down to about 30%. The snow level is going to go up to 2,200 feet. We're going to see some sunshine a little bit later on this morning. Again, it says the high of 45. We've already hit 48, so that would be an afternoon high. And the winds will gradually be dying down. In fact, by sunset tonight, the wind will be done. The snow level is going to get down to 1,700 feet tonight, but there's no real precipitation in the forecast either. We'll get down to 34. Thursday, another batch of it, maybe a half an inch of rain, but no wind. A lot of rain on Thursday, but no wind in the forecast, and a high of 42. And chance of rain continues Thursday night. Again, very little wind expected Thursday, a little breezy Thursday night, and then that's it. Then we're going to finally calm down. Friday in the early morning hours, the snow level is going to be at 1,200 feet. Eventually, it's going to go well above that, and we'll get up to 40 under partly sunny skies. And then into the weekend we go. Saturday, partly sunny, 36. It's finally going to start feeling like winter. 34, our afternoon high on Sunday, which, believe it or not, is still above normal. This has been one strange December, and once again, I would need to mention this. Our high temperature yesterday, Thursday, was 49 degrees. That was our high temperature. Our actual low temperature was 38. So once again, our low temperature has not even been close. So this has just been bizarre December weather. There's no other way to put it. The news can sometimes be bizarre. It affected us yesterday. The news is 2 minutes away. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life channel.
Your favorite local channel is now available for free on your smart TV and connected streaming devices. Watch live programming and catch up with the latest shows on demand. See the local stories that matter to you. NCW Life, now on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV.
Hi, I'm Amanda Walden with A. Walden Insurance Group. Medicare can be overwhelming, but you don't have to figure it out alone. I've been helping people understand their Medicare options for over a decade. Medicare isn't a one-size-fits-all. I'll help you understand your coverage options so you can feel confident in your decisions. Let's find the right Medicare plan for you. Call me today or come and see me at my office located on South Chelan Avenue in Wenatchee between the YMCA and the Social Security office. I look forward to meeting you soon.
Craving fresh Asian comfort food? Steam Panda is Wenatchee's popular, family-friendly Asian restaurant. They focus on providing guests with delicious, healthy, fresh, and natural dishes for an affordable price. Warm up with one of their many popular house-made soup dumplings, ramen noodles, or pho dishes. And make sure to ask about their lunch and chef specials on sushi rolls. Steam Panda's Hawaiian poke bowl and salads are excellent with your favorite boba tea. Stop by or order online at Steam Panda today.
Caught in a conflict? Family, workplace, neighbor, business, housing disputes? Wenatchee Valley Dispute Resolution Center provides mediation services, a cost-effective and efficient way to provide a written resolution to disputes and issues. Plus, we offer mediation training and community education on conflict resolution and communication skills. Contact us to learn more.
It's raining lightly. The wind is beginning to die down, 37 degrees. We'll eventually see some sunshine, wind diminishing, rain diminishing. One more round of rain, pretty heavy rain without the associated wind, though, is expected tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. It's 10 minutes after the hour. A drill that struck a 2-inch natural gas pipeline caused a big-time leak. I should say, into the basement of the Wenatchee apartment complex of Radenburg Apartments, just down the street from us on Yakima Street. They had to evacuate everybody just after 2 yesterday afternoon. The other buildings in the area had to be evacuated. That included the Wenatchee Police Department, which is right across the street, and our studios right up the street. Residents got out of there. They got their pets out of there and their personal belongings out of the Radenburg, which has been standing for over 100 years. They shut traffic off on a 1-block area around the incident until it could be cleared. That happened at about 3:30. Wenatchee Valley Fire Assistant Chief Andy Davidson told our own news director, the handsome and talented Jefferson Robbins, the cause of the leak was nearby construction work.
So there was a gas leak was hit through some construction operations near the Vradenburg. It was actually, a drill was in operation. It drilled through into the gas line. The gas line started depositing gas into the basement of the building. So they called us, and whenever gas is in an enclosed space, that's a real problem. Natural gas wants to rise and expand, and that's usually what it does, which is great, but here it's contained. So we had a problem that once it reaches a certain level, it's highly flammable to the point of being explosive, really.
Was the drill strike from the operations that are going on at the Majestic construction?
No, it was separate.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
So you noticed this about a little bit after 2 p.m., I think?
That's correct. It was dispatched at 203.
So you had to let the folks in the apartment buildings know they need to get out?
So the folks in the Vradenburg have been evacuated, at least those that we could get to. And City Hall was kind enough to open up, put folks in council chambers. Some folks are standing out in the weather. The line has been crimped right now, and power has been secured to the building, which lowers our index of concern for fire.
Chelan County residents who suffered losses as a result of the recent windstorm and subsequent floods are being asked to report the damage to begin the process of getting financial assistance through the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Of course, back on Friday, Governor Bob Ferguson announced that President Trump approved Washington State's request for a federal emergency declaration. The county says the federal government has not approved financial assistance for individuals yet, but they hope FEMA will take that step if it receives enough documentation from Chelan County residents. You can find the form on the county website. It's for individuals and businesses and should be filled out for each location where damage occurred. Earlier yesterday, State Insurance Commissioner Patty Cutterer issued an emergency order to provide relief to Washington policyholders. What does that mean? That means insurers can't cancel policies unless directed to do so by the policyholder. It also provides a 45-day grace period for premium payments and waive all late fees and charges for reinstatement. The Lighthouse Christian Ministries filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Wenatchee yesterday over the closure of its soup kitchen. Earlier in the year, the city revoked the nonprofit's conditional use permit, citing nuisance complaints from businesses and employees near the location on Columbia Street. The Lighthouse is being represented for free by the national public interest law firm, the Institute for Justice, and they held a press conference and provided more background to the lawsuit.
Going back to 2016, Lighthouse was granted a conditional use permit by the city of Wenatchee. The conditional use permit allowed it to operate from this building. Another 3 years later, Lighthouse invested into preparing this building to serve the community. Finally, in 2019, after those 3 years and $1.67 million of investment, Lighthouse was able to open its doors to the community. Before that, though, Lighthouse sat down with the city and made a plan in case there were any instances of misbehavior on these grounds. And it had a step-by-step plan to address that. The city agreed to that plan, and Lighthouse always followed every step, every time. For 6 years, Lighthouse successfully operated from this location, serving the community and often going well above and beyond the call of its duties. Then, this year, a handful of politically connected neighbors contacted the mayor with complaints. Immediately, with no warning and no chance to make any corrections, Lighthouse received its revocation of its permit. Lighthouse was not given any warning, and it didn't have a chance to respond to this. It is unconstitutional to revoke a conditional use permit for trivial reasons and for misrepresentative call data. Lighthouse always worked to be a good neighbor and to work with the city and to work with its neighbors. But the city has made it clear that it does not want to work with Lighthouse. And that is why we are bringing this federal lawsuit.
Lighthouse Director Colin Oliveira also spoke at the press conference, and he said he estimated that the soup kitchen previously served about 100 people a day.
And the simple fact is that when the city set out on this agenda to shut down Lighthouse Christian Ministries, what they did is they removed thousands upon thousands of pounds of food from our community. What they did is they removed a vital lifeline for not only the city itself to be able to reach those that were in need, but for all of our community partners here in Wenatchee to be able to connect and offer the resources and the things that individuals need to ideally get out of this state of homelessness. On top of that, the city also severely damaged the reputation of Lighthouse Christian Ministries within our own community. And so it's because of that that we set out to fight this case, because we want to make sure, one, that we're not ever treated like this again, but to make sure that nobody else is treated like this again either.
Interim City Administrator Edgar Reinfeld told us he just learned about the lawsuit when the rest of us did. He said the city does not have a comment at this time. No trial date has been set. 2 new applicants will join the Chelan-Douglas Board of Health come New Year, and they were appointed by the elected commissioners for Chelan and Douglas counties. Maggie Higgins is a registered nurse with the Lake Chelan Health Hospital System, and Amanda Appel is a client care coordinator for the American Red Cross in Wenatchee. Commissioners approved their appointments last week to take the slots held for the last 3 years by Confluence Health physician Dr. Bindu Nayak and hydrogeologist Bill Sullivan, who is a relentless critic of both COVID-19 vaccinations and other public health policies. The board sets priorities for the Chelan-Douglas Health District. That's the main public health agency for Chelan and Douglas counties. Higgins and Appel will serve on the 12-member board through 2028. And Chelan County Coroner Wayne Harris will depart his office at the end of the year, turning over his duties to his chief deputy. He first came into the office in 2005, handling the business of death and dying throughout Chelan County. He sat down with me and I asked him what trends he's noticed over the years and the kinds of deaths he has to investigate.
Suicides can kind of ebb and flow. This year, I think we're at 19. Generally, we're around 7 to 10. And I don't know if that's has anything to do with, I know during COVID they were up a little bit after, like in 2022 or 23, they were up a little bit, and I'm sure that was COVID fatigue that everyone experienced. There's a lot of people coming over from different counties recreating here, and they'll fall off the mountain or be unprepared and die of the elements. And that has seemed to be up a little bit too, those type of deaths.
You mentioned COVID first became an issue in February of 2020. By March, it was a full-blown pandemic. Did you get some guidelines, some things as a coroner say, now this is how you're going to be able to determine that this person died of COVID as opposed to pneumonia?
Yes.
Or something like that? How did that learning process work for you?
Well, when it first started, every time there was a COVID death in the hospital, we were getting called to report the death to us, and we had to explain to them that COVID is a natural death. You don't need to call us. You need to report that death to the health department. They were tracking statistics. And so after about a month, they all understood that and stopped calling us. But we really struggled with, a lot of times what we would do was take a nose swab, and we would take the swab to the hospital and they would test it for us. And so we were able to determine individuals died of COVID. A lot of people had the flu symptoms, they felt sick, they wouldn't go get tested, they were young and they passed away, and that was our first suspicion. And so having that test to confirm that it was COVID was a very valuable tool.
Take me back 20 years. You were in the funeral business.
Yes.
Before you became a public servant. Your predecessor, Dr. Fino, took a job, moved away, would do some occasional work here in Chelan County, but the job was open. Talk about the decision-making process to say, I think I want to become the Chelan County coroner. I think I'd be good at it. What made you make that decision 20 years ago?
Well, I was deputy coroner for her for about 2 years. I would do one weekend a month call just so they could get her and her chief deputy coroner could get some rest. And so I kind of had my foot in the door and knew what it was like. In the funeral business, I worked with a lot of coroners and medical examiners, so I knew the system. And when she told me she was resigning and that there would be the opening, I kind of thought long and hard about it. At first I thought, well, I don't want to throw my funeral career away and all that schooling I went through for nothing. And then I realized I would still be working with the grieving people and being able to help them. So I decided to put my application in. The Republican committee had 11 people apply. They narrowed it down to 3. The 3 names were given to the commissioners, and I was fortunate enough to be selected. That was in 2006. One of the gentlemen not selected ran against me that year, and I was fortunate enough to win that election. And every year thereafter, I've been unopposed. So it was a very seamless transition. I was a little worried at first that it might be a bit too much, but Dr. Fino was still around, and she was very helpful to get me up to speed. When my mom heard that I was appointed, she said, Wayne, you can't do that. You're not a doctor. I said, Mom, they don't know that. She thought that was pretty good.
And that is the news on this Wednesday. We discovered something very important yesterday afternoon here at the NCW Life channel. If you're forced to evacuate the building for an hour and a half, it's really hard to put together a newscast, and yet they did it. Amazing. We're going to do it again today, provided we don't have a gas leak. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock tonight. The news at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock tonight, available for you to peruse on YouTube. Right around 5 o'clock, we stream all the time. So if you just go to our website and click on the live stream, you can watch me right now on the internet. You probably are. For news tips, send us an email, news@ncwlife.com. If you like the Kraken, the Wild, and calm weather, you had a really bad Tuesday. Sports is next. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life channel.
Big basketball doings coming up on Friday at Cashmere as the Bulldogs play host to the Natchez Valley Rangers. Join us for all the live play-by-play. Girls at 5:45, the boys at 7:15. And the big part of the night is Haley Van Lith will be in the house to have her jersey number 11 retired. We'll have that ceremony at halftime of the boys game, and we'll have Haley on the air as well. It's all coming up Friday right here on your local TV station, the NCW Life channel.
Order ready for Susan?
During the holiday rush, those might be the best words you can hear all week. At Abby's, you get a night off from cooking, a place to gather with family, and easy holiday catering that everybody loves. For legendary pizza and hospitality, visit Abby's.com. Aloha and Melikaliki Maka from Abby's. End your year with a tropical twist. Our big Hawaiian pizza at a legendary holiday price. Plus, earn $5, $10, $20 or more in free pizza with our holiday gift card offer. Abby's, a legendary holiday pizza tradition.
Raising a family may have seemed overwhelming to your parents, but they weren't. Coach, teacher, life guide, caregiver. Family takes care of family. And as the circle of life continues, you now are their caregiver. It may seem overwhelming, but we're here to help you find the support services necessary so you can provide quality care to your elders.
Call Aging and Adult Care of Central Washington at 1-800-572-4459.
When flooding hit Serve Wenatchee, their office in Fresh Hope Market were devastated. But their mission to help prevent homelessness in this valley hasn't stopped, and neither will we. I'm Todd McLaughlin, General Manager at Apple Valley Honda. Now through the end of the year, we're donating $25 to Serve Wenatchee every time someone takes a test drive. And if you happen to buy a vehicle, we'll give an additional $100 in your name. Because when our neighbors are in need, this community steps up, and we're proud to be part of that.
Sports at 25 minutes after the hour. It was 3-2 Seattle after 2 periods. It didn't end that way. Colorado scored 3 goals in the final period, and they pulled away from the Kraken. The final yesterday was 5-3. Chandler Stevenson, Shane Wright, and Jordan Eberle scored goals for the Kraken. They've lost 9 out of their last 10. Seattle falls to 12-13-6 on the year. They were in second place in the Pacific. Now they're tied for 6th with Calgary, and that's who they play next. They'll take on the Flames in Calgary tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Women's college basketball. Both the local teams lost. It's been a rough year for the Washington State women. They've only won 1 game, and they still haven't won a home game. Seton Hall beat them last night 74-65. Gonzaga fell to Arizona State 68-66. Men's college basketball tonight. Eastern Washington will take on Washington State. That game will be in Spokane at 7 o'clock. And Gonzaga, number 7, will host, are you ready for this? The Fightin' Camels from Campbell College. That's who they are. By the way, Gonzaga is a 38-point favorite. That's at 6 o'clock tonight. Prep girls basketball scoreboard. Take a look. There was a lot of activity last night. Most of these, of course, were boys and girls doubleheaders. Chelan and Omak actually got a league game in Caribou Trail League, and Kashmir played well on the road. That's the Prep girls basketball scoreboard. Prep boys basketball scoreboard. There you go. Moses Lake knocked off Shadle Park. There was Kashmir's clean sweep of Keona Benton. Chelan knocked off Omak in boys basketball, and the rest right on down the line. And the Wenatchee Wild. They went to Kent. They took on the Seattle Thunderbirds. Seattle scored 3 goals. Wenatchee scored 1. And that one Wenatchee goal by Josh Fluker was a fluke goal. It happened with 70 seconds left in the contest. Wenatchee loses to Seattle 3-1. They will take on Everett tonight in Everett at 7:05. And then they're on Christmas break. They won't play again until December 27th. And they won't play a home game again till December 28th. And those are just some of the games that people are playing. Break out the flapjacks, the pancakes, the waffles, and get out your maple syrup. It's National Maple Syrup Day today. And if you really like maple syrup, first of all, get ready to put a crowbar in your wallet. Pure maple syrup is very expensive for any number of reasons. For one thing, a maple tree has to be 40 years old before it can even produce the sap that we make maple syrup. It takes roughly 40 gallons of sap just to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. But if you store it correctly, maple syrup that's been opened can last a long time, year after year after year. Canada pretty much has the maple syrup monopoly worldwide. 80% of all the maple syrup produced for the world is produced in Canada. 2/3 of that is in Quebec. They take it so seriously in Canada that just like we have a strategic oil reserve, they have a strategic maple syrup reserve, and it's tightly guarded. It's like Fort Knox, and it holds hundreds and hundreds of gallons of maple syrup. And in 2012, a bunch of crooks broke into the joint and stole 6 million pounds of maple syrup. It's one of the largest agricultural thefts ever. They stole the maple syrup. Who's kidding? The real maple syrup, although it's expensive, nothing beats it. It's good. Now I'm hungry. Today in history, thank you to the French. During the American Revolution on this date in 1777, France recognizes the United States, our very first ally. Now, yeah, they had ulterior motives. For one thing, they hated the British. Now, yes, the American Revolution was very popular among the aristocracy and just the regular people in France. But who's kidding who? They had just lost the 7 Years' War. They wanted revenge on Great Britain. They wanted to weaken Great Britain as best they could. And they thought, well, why not? We'll just join George and the gang. The French were on board. We'll help. And they did on this date in 1777. 122 years ago today, in the beaches of Kitty Hawk, South Carolina, North Carolina, the Wright Flyer takes flight. 4 flights, 4 of them. The last one was the best. The last time, the 4th and final flight, it actually flew 852 feet for the first ever controlled, powered, heavier than air flight. And then, believe it or not, while it was just sitting on the beach, a big gust of wind came and blew it over. They wrecked it. They put it all in crates. They shipped it back to Dayton, where it sat in crates. And then there was a flood, and the Wrights themselves said, well, we'll just destroy it. We've made a lot of progress. Wilbur said, we're just going to burn the damn thing. Somebody said, don't do that. So they didn't. History made. History made 92 years ago today. You might maybe call it the first Super Bowl. I don't know. The very first NFL championship game is held at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The Bears and the Giants did battle. The Bears won 23-21, the first ever NFL championship game in 1933. The gate receipts is how the players got paid. So each member of the Bears got about $210, and each member of the Giants got about $140 apiece. On this date in 1935, the airplane that would change history, more so maybe even the Wright Flyer, the DC-3, makes its maiden flight, and it changed aviation forever. It was the very first plane that made profits by carrying passengers, and passengers only. It was fast, it was durable, it was powerful, it was comfortable. It could fly from New York City to LA. This is 1935, by the way. In 18 hours, it only had to stop 3 times for refueling. This was in 1935. Less than 3 years later, 95% of all airplane traffic in this country was DC-3s. The old line about the DC-3, the only replacement for a DC-3 is another DC-3. It's now 90 years later, and they're still flying them all over the world. They use them for smoke jumping, parachuting. They can fly in and out of almost anywhere. If you got a quarter of a mile of anything that's flat and straight, a DC-3 can land on it and take off. They use it to transport freight. It was the plane that changed it all. The DC-3 is 90 years old today. And The Simpsons made its debut December 17th, 1989, the very first full-length Simpsons cartoon, The Christmas Show, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, premiered on Fox. And since then, The Simpsons have done 801 episode. It is the longest running sitcom and the longest running TV show, scripted television show in history. It's not even close. Doesn't matter if you measure it by the number of seasons it's been on the air or the number of episodes. The cultural phenomenon of The Simpsons started on this date in 1989. Dope! We lost Pope Francis in April at the age of 88. Today would have been his 89th birthday. He was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, and he made a lot of firsts. He was the first Jesuit pope. He was the first pope from the Americas, the first pope from the Southern Hemisphere, the first pope outside of Europe since Pope Gregory III. He was from Syria. That was in the 8th century, and he had quite a background professionally before he entered the church. He was a chemical technician, but he also worked as a bouncer in a bar. Pope Francis, born in the state in 1936. For heat and air, call Alpine Air. For heat and air, call Alpine Air. They are our platinum sponsors, and they're good. If you're going to have a platinum sponsor, might as well have a business that has the reputation that Alpine Air does. Mike McNaughty has an opinion about critical thinking and my conversation with the critical infrastructure. Doug Jones and the head of Rivercom. They'd like you to vote yes on a very important bond issue on February 10th. We talked about that and other things. When we come back, you're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life channel.
NCW Life Channel is your local TV station. We believe in being the spotlight and mirror to the communities we serve in North Central Washington. Programming on NCW Life would not be possible without our sponsors. Special thanks to our platinum sponsor, Alpine Air. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Alpine Air.
Welcome to Mountain Chick Floral, your go-to flower and plant shop in downtown Wenatchee. Order your holiday centerpiece or special arrangement to bring the holiday cheer into your home or office. Shop Mountain Chick Floral for a wide variety of fun gifts and houseplants, and when you buy a plant and a container, they'll pot it for you, no charge. Weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, shop Mountain Chick Floral in downtown Wenatchee, where every occasion is a reason to celebrate with flowers.
This is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and everybody is entitled to my opinion. Now, there's a recent social phenomenon I've noticed. Using terms like woke, liberal, snowflake, terms that are not only used to criticize someone, but also to allow whoever disagrees and uses such terms to ignore the legitimacy of what someone says simply by using a pejorative term to characterize them. If I say something undeniably true, like Trump lost in 2020, and the big lie is that the election was stolen from him, all a dissenter has to do is say that I'm a liberal, to establish in their minds that anything I say is suspect and it's okay for them to continue to dwell in their fantastically ill-informed opinion. You know, it's incredible to me how this simple act of characterization relieves someone of the responsibility of honest critical thinking. I don't know. This is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and that's my opinion.
Your favorite local channel is now available for free on your smart TV and connected streaming devices. Watch live programming and catch up with the latest shows on demand. See the local stories that matter to you. NCW Life, now on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV.
Central Washington Water understands the power of healing waters. If part of your wellness routine includes hot heat from a sauna, Central Washington Water now carries indoor and outdoor infrared and hot rock saunas by Tilo. Research shows there are many health benefits to a cold plunge after a good workout or relaxing time in your sauna. Harness the power of water in a hot spring spa, plug-and-play spas, a Tilo sauna, or a cold plunge tub. Stop by Central Washington Water, your wellness experts.
If you live anywhere near North Central Washington or the sound of my voice, you know that Rivercom's 911 Dispatch Center, just across the street from this very studio, they have outgrown their facilities, their campus, and they did so 6-7 years ago. And for the last 6 or 7 years, things have only gotten worse, not better, for one of the most critical governmental agencies to protect the public safety. And to that end, things are starting to switch from second to third gear, and hopefully, from my standpoint, by the middle of February, into sixth gear. To talk about that is the executive director of Rivercom's 911 Dispatch Center. No stranger to this program, Doug Jones. Good to see you, my friend.
Good morning, Dan. Good to see you.
You popped into my radar again with the press release earlier this week. A little background, of course, you've outgrown your facility. Oh, geez, I don't know, 6-7 years now. You've been busting at the seams at Rivercom, at the top floor of the Wenatchee Police Department. You know this was coming. You can't stay there forever. The initial thought was perhaps maybe the Confluence Technology Center for a new home for Rivercom, but that logistically just didn't work out for you guys.
Right, that was a good option two or three years ago, and we looked hard at it. But the biggest issue with, and we'll talk about with the new facility too, is 911 centers have to be what they call risk category 4 to meet those construction standards. So we did an analysis of the CTC at the time, and it would have taken a lot more money than what was reasonable to retrofit that entire facility to be risk category 4 when all we were occupying was one floor. So it didn't make a lot of sense.
What that means essentially, if it's a catastrophe, a major earthquake, a flood, anything that that would endanger the lives of hundreds of people, you guys have to stay open.
Exactly. We're, as an emergency communication system, floods or whatever, we have to have a facility that's going to have the redundancy and the structural integrity to really withstand those forces that we can then continue to operate and provide those emergency services.
So just about a year ago, you went to the board. The board green-lighted purchase of a property so you could build from the ground up on 5th and Lyle in East Wenatchee. That was the initial plan, and then things changed a couple of weeks ago. Talk about the timeline for the new headquarters out there in Old Station.
Yeah, we purchased that property in East Wenatchee, I think in October timeframe of 2024, with the intent of building a new facility. Again, it's very difficult to find an existing facility, as we found out with the CTC, that meets those risk category 4 requirements. They just don't build them unless you're building fire departments or PSAPs or 911 centers. So it's very hard to find that. So we did look to build new, and we had a design team come on and start the preliminary design of a new facility. And the rough cost of that, we're going to be about $26 million to finish that complete project. So we went to the state, as you know, last year, asked for a lot of money to help complete that. Didn't get it, which is fine. It was a big ask, and there's a lot of priorities for state funds, especially right now, as you know. Federal funds as well. We went to our federal representatives, and they did what they could, but difficult to secure funding from them as well. So went back to the drawing board when we didn't get those funds and said, what can we do? So we started looking at existing facilities, and this one out on Euclid came up. It's a little bit smaller than we wanted. That's going to be about probably 6,000 square feet smaller than our new facility that we were planning, but certainly for the next 15 to 20 years is one that will work for us.
So how did this all fall into place? You bought the property in East Wenatchee. We want to build from new, but if something comes up that fits within our budget, we're going to go for it, and this is exactly what happened, pretty much?
Exactly. And again, similar to what we did with the CTC, we looked at this property, we said, and we made an offer on it, and then we entered into a contingency phase where we looked at all the things we needed to do to bring it to risk category 4, to provide all the redundancy and power and IT and all those types of things that a 911 center needs. And we went through that process of hiring someone to look at that, and it came back as yes, this can be retrofitted at a reasonable cost, significant cost savings to building new. So that's the route we went.
How much money are you saying you're going to, I'm assuming, eventually put the property in East Wenatchee that's not going to be your new headquarters back up for sale? You paid a little over $12 million for that? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. How much was
we paid for that for the 1.7 or 8, something like that.
That's what I
right.
mean. Yeah. And so there's going to be some cost savings here by buying an already existing building, even though you do have to renovate it.
Exactly. Definitely. And then we still have that property in East Wenatchee. The board hasn't made a decision to sell that or not. Kind of looking at maybe what the market looks like as far as selling that to be good stewards of public funds and what that looks like. So, and we don't know. We don't have the final cost on the retrofit for the new building either. So we've got an RFP out for a design company now to come in and really get to the details about what we need to do with this property. We'll get a little bit more refined budget on that and figure out exactly how much we need beyond what we have to finish that property and move into it.
Does the physical location of Rivercom's dispatch center, the new one, does that play any role at all, or as long as you can put up transmitters and repeaters and all that stuff so you can communicate over a wide swath of property, does the actual physical location play a role in this?
Yes, that was one of our contingencies too, was to kind of do analysis of how that property, with the antenna there, hits our other radio sites throughout the valley, and then simulcast throughout the 2 counties. So yes, that's a consideration. Obviously, Euclid, one of the things we looked at with Euclid property is right above the Confluence State Park down there. So what's the inundation zone for the dams? That was a big one because it's right down there. And we worked with the PUD, and they gave us some maps to show us that even if there was a flood coming down from the dam, we would be above those flood areas. So that was another consideration. And
you're asking the taxpayers and the registered voters in the Rivercom area, which is all of Chelan and Douglas County, I'm assuming, come February, to pass a 1/10 of 1% sales tax to not only keep you folks up and running, but to make some necessary improvements. And I bring that up because, as you and I both know, but maybe our viewers don't, there is a lot of dead spots. You're talking about a lot of rural areas. There are a lot of dead spots in both Chelan and Douglas counties that emergency personnel in Rivercom can't talk to each other. That needs to be addressed.
Definitely. When you talk about our radio networks, we have over 20 different radio sites on top of buildings, on top of hilltops throughout the Chelan and Douglas County area. And then we still have dead zones. We talk about accidents on Stevens Pass, Blewett Pass, things like that. Those are some of the significant areas where we have dead spots, and when first responders go into those areas, we want to give them the most updated information. We want to be able to hear them and get status reports so we can help to coordinate further resources. And a lot of times we can't do that because of the dead zones that we have currently. So adding new infrastructure to our radio sites, adding more radio towers to address those, and then adding infrastructure and maintenance basically to our existing sites is a heavy cost, and it's getting more, as you probably know on the radio side, getting more expensive every year to keep up the technologies that are involved with radio communications.
How out of date is the equipment that Rivercom is currently dealing with now at your dispatch center? Is it, you have to stay with technology, and technology has done nothing but help you guys communicate and get the message out to whatever the first responder is. Is that always a challenge to stay ahead of that technological curve?
It is, but not only on the technology side as far as radio and IT. When you talk about Next Gen 911, this all kind of interrelates. We are getting calls from the enchantments now that we never got because of text 911 through satellite communications and things like that. So in addition to adding to our caseload, our call load from getting these remote 911 calls that take a lot of coordination. When we get someone that breaks their legs up in the enchantments, that's a lot of time that we dedicate to making sure that person gets the resources they need to get out of there. So all that technology that allows people to contact us much easier than it used to be has a cost. It has a personnel cost to manage that as well. All these things are costing a lot more money than you would think.
Your technical folks, top notch, by the way. You're the people who maintain the communications equipment on a daily basis are the best in the business. They must be looking around for pieces of property here and there, ridge tops and sections where they can put in a repeater or a translator. They've been looking around. They understand a line of sight.
Sure.
Is some of that going to be private property you're going to have to buy just a little bit of a square footage of, or maybe lease from Bureau of Land Management or Forest Service? Talk about that real quick.
Yeah, currently we have a mix. Like I said, we have over 20 sites, and that's a mix of properties that we own versus properties or tower space even that we lease. So it's definitely a mix, and when we look at what we need to expand that, we identify the locations where we need it, and then we see if there's property that can be purchased or property that can be leased or tower space that's already available at those locations to be able to do that. We have, I would think, a little bit more requirements as far as hardening of those sites to have generators and backup generators and solar and all those types of things. So those are the types of things we look at. Obviously, we can't have our sites go down, and so we have a lot of redundancy built into them.
67,500 public safety incidents.
Yep.
Every year that your organization responds to. That's a lot. Is it? And it's not going to get any less.
No.
In that respect. So is that something that you can forecast out? That you have a general idea that by the year 2030 we'll be sending out this many dispatches a year? Is that something that you can actually project with some accuracy?
Yeah, it's been a steady increase. Obviously, with population, that's one aspect of it. Over the last 4 years, we've seen a 12% increase. So, and like I think you mentioned in the opening, we did a study on our new facility back in 2019, or our current facility, that said that the current facility, based on the space that we had, was beyond capacity to expand into. So we've known that we needed more space for operations for quite some time. So I'm sorry, what was your question?
The question is can you accurately project exactly how many calls you're going to be taking in 10, 15 years, factoring in population growth and things like that?
Yeah, definitely population growth, but like I mentioned too, the more Next Gen 911 that comes on, the higher the caseload too. So it's not just population, it's also accessibility to 911 systems, which are improving all the time. The state of Washington is very robust in its Next Gen 911 technology, and we are a big part of that. When you bring your cell phone from Seattle, travel over to vacation in Chelan, you call 911 and you get Rivercom. You don't get the Seattle 911 center where your phone's from, right? That's the technology behind that. I think people take for granted. It's pretty significant. So,
do people take Rivercom itself for granted. I think they do.
Oh, I think so. I think so. Yeah, I was having dinner with a friend of mine the other day, and he said, "What's the big deal? I mean, 6 people sitting there answering phones. What's the big deal? Why do you need all this money?" You know, and it is. So I invite anybody that wants to give me a call. We'll walk you on the floor. I mean, you go into our dispatch center, and our dispatchers, you know, they are just wonderful, and they do a fantastic job. And I know we've talked about staffing before. We're still understaffed, so they're working a lot of overtime. But you know, they get these calls, and you've seen them in the news. They're very difficult calls to take. These accidents where you have fatalities and things like that. Dealing with those callers who are, you know, at the worst moment of their lives, and communicating that and keeping them on task to give us the information that we need is a very difficult and challenging and emotionally stressful job. So give them a lot of credit, and a lot of training goes into it. I mean, our training program, we just started an academy a couple weeks ago. Before they reach the floor and can do the job on their own, is a 7 to 12 month process. So it's not just answering phones. It's so much more than that. So.
And keep in mind that the vast majority of these Rivercom dispatchers, they don't get any follow-up. They have dispatched the necessary law enforcement or emergency response, be it ambulance, fire, whatever, to whatever is going on, and then they move on to the next call. And we've talked about this before. They don't really get gee, I wonder what happened with that gentleman who was having the heart issues a couple of weeks ago. Hope he's okay. They don't get that, do they?
And it's tough. You know, we do a lot of telephonic CPR. So when someone calls in and says, "Hey, my loved one just fell on the floor. I'm not sure what's wrong," we have a very good protocol that the dispatchers take people through step by step. And if they need CPR, we have them on the floor and doing telephonic CPR within seconds of the call starting. And sometimes those make it, and sometimes those don't. So that's very difficult, obviously, on the caller, but also on the dispatcher to always have that question: Did I do everything I could have done? But getting that follow-up information is important. And oftentimes we do get the information through through Dr. Job, who is our physician consultant basically for Rivercom. And he follows up and he says, hey, he comes back and says, if not for the telephonic CPR that your dispatcher had done, this person would not have survived. So those are significant.
On Tuesday, February 10th of next year, they are going to ask the voters in Chelan and Douglas counties to consider a 1/10 of 1% sales tax increase. To me, not much. It comes out to 1 cent for every $10 purchase. If it passes, what happens to the money?
Right. So basically, we're looking at 4 different things that this money goes to. And I guess first of all, you should know that 2026, the budget cycle we just went through, is the first time we've had to reach into our reserve account, which isn't huge. We're not a huge municipality. We probably have about $500,000 in our reserve account, and we're taking over about $200,000 out of that this year for just covering our expenses. So again, population, technology, all these things are very stressful on a very limited budget. So anyway, so the radio dead zones, you mentioned that. We need to expand coverage. We need to install radio towers to get those done. The most recent one we did up at Slide Ridge above Manson, that was about a $1.5 million project. So that's huge, and you know, when you're talking about our operating budget is about $10 million a year, that's a huge chunk. A tenth or more of our budget goes towards one radio tower. So those types of things are very significant for our first responders to have, and very expensive to give them. So that's the first thing, kind of building out continue to building out and maintaining our infrastructure. Cybersecurity is huge. I was talking to Brad, our IT tech, a couple weeks ago, and I said, have we ever been attacked? And he said, absolutely. And over the last 5 years, we've had at least 2 attacks. And you know, what do attackers get when they look at our networks? Well, number one, they disrupt. They disrupt first responder dispatching, so that's huge. We can't have people with ill intent disrupting our operations. And secondly, we have a lot of information. You call 911 and say, hey, I want to stay anonymous, but my neighbor is this or that. All that information is logged and kept. So there's a lot of information we have that obviously the public doesn't want to get out as well. So cybersecurity, I don't want to say we're not good at it. We do spend a lot of money on it. But like everything in technology, keeping up with and the latest technology to combat cybersecurity is expensive.
Your equipment has to work. It simply cannot fail.
Right, it does. Exactly.
Lives depend on it.
Yeah. Radio equipment and upgrades. I mentioned before that the TAC channels, for just an example of the radio technology that we need. If there's a structure fire in Chelan right now and all the fire units go to that structure fire, like we've had recently, they go to a TAC channel. So they go to a channel that's off the main dispatch channel so they can manage that operation. We can't hear them when they do that. So upgrading those TAC channels to basically simulcast so that we can dedicate a dispatcher to monitor those frequencies while they're on scene is huge for our fire departments and for us to make sure that we keep them safe. And then finally, just the facility upgrades. We don't know what the cost is going to be to fully get across the finish line with our facility we just bought, but we know that we're going to need some additional funds for that. I'm guessing, at least based on rest estimates, we're probably about $2 million short of reaching the finish line on that project.
Doug is one of the most accessible public servants you're going to find out there. Send him an email, give him a call. He'd be more than happy to give you the factual rundown on the February 10th bond issue. And starting after the holidays, early 2026, you're going to start rolling out some forums and things like that. So
absolutely,
people
I've already got a few service clubs that I'm going to go speak at. If you have a service club or an organization that you want me to come speak at, more than happy to do that. Rivercom, myself, very transparent about our needs, about our budgets and things like that. So we wouldn't be coming to the budget to the public if it wasn't needed. I think we've demonstrated, especially since saving $16 million on this building project, that we are very good stewards of public funds when it comes to what we do and how we use our money.
Doug Jones, Executive Director of Rivercom's 911 Emergency Dispatch Center. Thanks for dropping by and paying us a visit. I'd like to talk to you again after the holidays.
Absolutely. More than happy to.
Thanks, Doug. And one more thing, if you accidentally call 911, don't hang up. Stay on the line and say, it was a butt dial or my kid found my phone, because they call you back. We know, we hear it. Just stay on the line and say, my bad.
We know where you're at. Yeah.
You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley, and we'll be right back.
We've all dreamt of moving somewhere new. But what are home prices like? How are the schools? What are the state income taxes? And how's the weather? For all your questions, the Coldwell Banker Move Meter has answers. It's the only tool that lets you compare cities by cost and quality of living, so you can get a better idea of what your dream looks like and start making it come true. The Move Meter, only from Coldwell Banker. Live well with Coldwell.
Had a chance to take a look at the radar and a couple of satellite imageries during the Doug Jones interview. And for the Wenatchee Valley anyway, it looks like the worst is over. This is a cold front that's barreling through here and is coming in very, very fast. At 4 o'clock this morning, we had a wind gust at Pangbourne at 60 miles an hour, and our temperature spiked up to 48 degrees. Now we're down to 37 degrees. The rain, which is coming down pretty good in downtown Wenatchee anyway, at about 6 o'clock has tapered off quite a bit. Now just some light rain. The wind has died down quite a bit. The flag across the street from our studio at Wenatchee City Hall is hanging limp, but it's still breezy on those exposed ridge tops. And I want to give you a quick heads up. It is snowing and blowing at a really good clip right now on Blewett and on Snoqualmie, because right now that's about your only option. Again, you cannot get through Stevens Pass. There is no workaround. Sorry, folks. And Highway 2 between Skycomish and Leavenworth, the governor tells us yesterday, is going to be closed for, well, months. That's a direct quote from him. So it looks like the worst is over. In fact, the sun's already beginning to make his presence felt. That 45-degree high temperature is a little off because we've already hit our high temperature, 48 degrees. It's now cooled down to 37, but we're going to start calming down quite a bit. The one exception to the forecast, I want to jump ahead to Thursday afternoon and Thursday night. We are going to get more rain, perhaps a lot of rain, Thursday afternoon and Thursday night. The big difference is there's no real wind associated with that event. So we still have some saturated ground. We could still see some rock slides and some mudslides, but hopefully the worst is over. We can use the brakes. See you tomorrow. Have a great Wednesday. Bye-bye.